It's a breakfast meat that's not quite ham, but not quite bacon. Today I'm going to be walking you through a really simple recipe for Canadian bacon. Canadian bacon is going to turn out a lot like ham. The difference between Canadian bacon and ham is the cut of meat. Canadian bacon uses the center cut pork loin, similar to pork chops, while a ham uses a hind leg. Let's back up a little bit so I can show you how I processed the pork loin and got our cure ready. For our Canadian bacon, we are starting out with a basic store-bought center cut pork loin. Now I'm going to trim this down a little bit so we just have that extreme lean center cut, because that's the part I like to cure. You could start the curing process untrimmed and that would be fine, but for my preference I like a leaner Canadian bacon, and I feel like the cure penetrates a little better when it doesn't have to work through the fat. Now after I trim this, I'm going to set those trimmings aside, because we will save them for what? Sausage, of course, because we're trimming off mostly fat anyway. That'll be a great addition to a different sausage down the line. Much more uniform size, very lean, perfect for our Canadian bacon. I'll get the next one trimmed up here, and then we'll be ready to start putting together our cure. For our Canadian bacon, we're going to use a cure rate of 200 parts per million. Now I did some math with our pink cure, which is a 6.25 nitrate concentration, and we need exactly 8 grams of cure. We'll add that into our cure mix. We're going to be using a 2.5% salt ratio, which is going to bring us up to 64 grams of salt into our cure mixture. And lastly, we're going to be using 1% sugar, which will bring us up to 25 grams. I might go just over into our cure mixture. Now to boost our sweetness and add a little bit of nice flavor, we are going to be adding some maple syrup as well. We're going to go for about a half a cup for our batch here, and we're going to mix this right into our cure. Now the advantage of this, especially once we get into the vac sealer, is this will help distribute our cure evenly, so we have nice, even, and rounded flavors. So we'll mix this up. I'll kind of make a little bit of a paste, kind of a runny paste. Make sure that's all nice and incorporated, and then we'll go right on to our pork loins. So we're just going to rub this in on all sides, try and get it nice and even. And anything left over on the tray as well is going to go into the vac seal. Got a good seal on our vac pack here, so we're going to go into the fridge now to start our curing process. We have to wait about 1 day per 500 grams, so we'll see you in a few days. After taking our Canadian bacon, or our pork loins, out of the brine, we gave them a good rinse in cold water. Rinsing it will help get rid of any excess salt that we don't want left on there. Then I set them on a rack-lined tray and into the fridge overnight to dry out. This drying process is going to create and build up a pellicle on the outside of our roast. That pellicle is a thin layer of protein that becomes very tacky, and it's going to help with smoke absorption once we get into the smoker. That tackiness is also going to help our seasoning adhere to the meat. Today, we're going to be using chicken and waffle. It's actually designed as a wing rub, but it has great flavors, sugars, maple, bourbon, great breakfasty flavors that are going to go well with our Canadian bacon. So we will start seasoning up on the bottom here. You can smell that sweetness coming from the rub. Just going to go really nice. You can see how the seasoning is sticking really well, because that pellicle is gripping it and holding it onto the meat. Now we're all seasoned up. I'm going to give this about 40 to 45 minutes to let the seasoning adhere to the meat, and then we'll be going on to the smoker. I have our smoker preheated to 180 degrees outside, and we're going to use that for our smoke cycle. After we infuse a good amount of flavor, We're going to change the setting to cook, bring our temperature up to 225 inside the smokehouse, and we're going to cook these until we reach an internal temperature of about 150 degrees. After we hit 150 degrees internal temperature on our Canadian bacon, we pulled and we came out with this beautiful reddish brown color. I let it rest at room temperature for about an hour to an hour and a half just to come down in temperature slowly. Then I set it in the cooler overnight. We want this to be fully cooled because that's going to be good for preservation and it's going to be a lot easier to slice. So now we're ready to slice, fry, and try. Beautiful. Cured all the way through. Nice little bit of a smoke ring. Smells amazing, so I'm really excited to try this. When I cook Canadian bacon, I don't like to overcook it. I don't want a hard sear on it. I want a little bit of caramelization on the outside, and then I just want to barely heat it through. I don't want to dry it out too much because it's already at a pretty lean cut. So that's what I did, and now it's time to try. So the texture came out a little bit like a ham steak, which is what I was expecting because of the cure and the smoking process, but the flavor is so wonderfully sweet and smoky. That chicken waffle rub that we used, it's actually designed as a wing rub, but it worked beautifully here. Very happy with the way this turned out. I hope you enjoyed watching and learning with me today. And if you like the recipe, head to psseasoning.com for more information on the products I used as well as this recipe. Don't forget to click subscribe, and you can also check us out on all forms of social media. And until next time, I'm Chef Jed. Thanks for watching.